Hello and welcome back to Kat's Writing and Reading Nook. Go ahead and picture something for me. You're 10 years old and you've just been offered a place to stay at this giant mansion. And this mansion is not just a mansion. It's filled with everything that you could want or need, including food, even your favorites. It has a giant yard with trees that you can build a tree house in. There are other kids there, and absolutely no school. But the really weird thing about this house is that all 4 seasons come in a day. Just moved to Texas. But not only do they all come in one day, they're the perfect seasons. And not only that, in the fall, which is like the afternoon, evening, you get Halloween every night. And in the winter, which is nighttime period, you get Christmas, including a gift each night that you really, really want. Sounds great, right? I mean, what 10-year-old wouldn't want to live there? That is the very scenario that our protagonist from today's story faces. 10-year-old Harvey Swick from The Thief of Always by Clive Barker is offered this deal by a man named Rictus. And he goes because it's February. And spring break, forget about summer, are just way off in the distance. And who wouldn't want a break? And he goes to this place and he meets people like his friend Wendell and Lulu and the kindly old housekeeper. And everything seems great until things just don't add up, and even a 10-year-old boy who is blinded by all the cool things can't ignore it anymore. And all of a sudden, he is fighting for his life and his sanity and everything that he holds dear. This is a children's book, by the way. The Thief of Always by Clive Barker. I don't actually have a copy of the book. This was one of those that I picked up from a library display back in like the end of October, beginning of November. And it was one that I was like, that sounds really interesting. Very fairy tale-esque. The author also illustrated the book, and it was very creepy. Kind of a little bit Tim Burton, a little bit like definitely gothic horror. And I loved that all of the characters were well fleshed out. The pacing was fantastic. And the book itself was originally published, I think, in the 90s. And I'd never heard of it. So I don't have nostalgia anything, because I've had situations like watching High School Musical when I was 18. Yeah, I didn't have the same nostalgia that everyone else did, and I didn't really enjoy it as much. But this one was really good. It's like reading the Redwall series or Fablehaven, right? It's definitely written for younger readers, but it's so good. The midpoint of the book and the climax, they were just, there was a lot of emotional tension and a lot of questions. Like, even though you're like kind of like, okay, it's probably going to end this way, you don't know. you don't know. Because, you know, there are some stories that it's just like, okay, that's predictable. This one was not as predictable, even though as an adult I was picking up on a lot of the hints that the author was throwing down. I was like, oh yeah, of course. The thing with the lake and just a number of other things that cropped out that you're like, oh yeah. The story has a really interesting twist on a classic monster. I'm gonna let y'all figure that one out, but you'll know when you see it. There's kind of a hint in the title, but I also really appreciated how reading this as a child and reading this as an adult, there's two different fear scenarios that are coming out of it. As a child, you are terrified because the protagonist is also a child, and the adults in the scenario who want / possibly could help him, like, they can't. The antagonist in the story is specifically going after children, and adults can't see what's going on. And that's terrifying in and of itself. But reading this as an adult and knowing that there's pretty much nothing the adults in the scenario can do, like, that's terrifying. Like, I have younger siblings. I know a lot of small children through various family and friends, and I work in the educational field. There is nothing more terrifying as an adult who loves a child than something being wrong and not being able to do anything about it. Like, that's terrifying. So, this book is great. It's scaring everybody. But, yeah, there's a lot of really interesting world building. The magic system is really cool. And I'm just saying, the ingenuity and the childlike thinking of this protagonist is really, really interesting. I know he's written by an adult, but, like, you're sitting there going, that is definitely what a 10-year-old would do in this scenario. And it's kind of terrifying because I know some kids around that age range, and I don't know. But all in all, I would definitely recommend this. If you're looking at this for a child, if they can get through Grimm's fairy tales, you come from, like, an Eastern European background, like, folktale wise. I don't know which I'll put in the water over there, but if they can get through those stories, this one's perfect. Again, if you like Tim Burton, interesting tidbit, the author of Thief of Always is also responsible for the Hellraiser franchise, both book and movie form. So I've never personally read or watched any of that, so this probably bleeds through. But he's solidly in the horror genre, so yeah. All right, I will see y'all next week with another book and hopefully some writing updates, because I need to get my second draft of Project Vibrant done. So, I will see y'all next week. Happy reading, guys.